Okay, you cannot hear me. Let me check what's going on. I think it should just work fine. Can Matt or someone from my team confirm that you can hear me? So let's just confirm.
Yeah, your audio is coming through fine.
Okay, thank you. Okay, then I would say let's get started. Today we would like to introduce you to the task of Project Purdue. In addition to that, also provide the broader context and what this challenge was about for people that maybe hadn't had the chance to attend the prior session and read all the content we have shared so far. So I'm going to get started. My name is Sabine Brunswicker, and I'm one of the people driving IronHacks. And what I'm going to do in the next few, I would say 30 minutes, is to explain you what IronHacks is and then really focus on this particular hack, on this Project Purdue hack, the task, the rules, and also the incentives and the upcoming submission. So let's get started. About us, we are a group of very diverse people that try to understand how we can use digital technologies to empower individuals to make a contribution. And we come from different backgrounds, we have different educational backgrounds, and also live on different parts of the country right now. What IronHacks is trying to do, or the goal of it, is to be a platform where virtual crowds use data to solve societal problems. And when I say societal problems, they range from healthy living, affordable housing, and now, since 2020, we talk about COVID-19. Because COVID-19 is really an issue that matters for everybody. Yes, some of you might be already fatigued. You can't hear it anymore, but now is the opportunity to turn that fatigueness into some energy, because we don't want you to worry about COVID-19. We just want you to get excited about the data that we've collected related to COVID-19, to build statistical models and make predictions that are actually insightful for decision makers. Here is a summary of what IronHacks is. It's really high energy virtual hacking program where you have access to unique data that you would typically not have access to. They're exclusive. We pre-process them for you. You compete. At the same time, it's really learning oriented. So it's really about learning as well, not just competing and being the best. And it's virtual at scale, and we do have a range of incentives for you laid out. The platform itself, I hope you've already started to use it, has various features, has a registration, a dashboard, a forum, and the most essential feature is actually a cloud-based editor. It's a Jupyter Hub, and you have access to a Jupyter Lab and also BigQuery integration. I wanted to also mention up front that IronHacks is supporting research to understand how we can design those digital platforms and all the features they have to make people like you that participate more productive and more creative as well. That ranges from features that you are aware of and features that you might not be aware of. They're just algorithms that we run in parallel to make sure things work fine. So we do research during and also afterwards. It's one of the reasons why we ask you to fill in some surveys that you'll learn about your motivations, your incentives, and also what you have done. That's also the reason why we actually can provide that incentive, because NSF and also Project Purdue has provided us with financial support that we can perform that research. As I mentioned, Jupyter Lab, it's the next generation of Jupyter notebooks, are a central feature of the IronHacks platform. It's a Kaggle-style platform that allows you to work in a workspace with no setup, and I'm assuming you've already done that. Many of you actually queried the database. We observed that and used the notebook, and so that's also something, a great opportunity for you if you haven't done it before, and also an opportunity for the future for us to learn how we can make those environments and tools better and more useful for you. In terms of incentives overall, beyond this particular hack, just reflecting on what others have told. It's career opportunities. You have a new project on your CV. You get certificates, you get prize money, you get potentially sometimes also class credits, and here also global recognition. We want to add one more for this upcoming hack, because also two more. There's a fellowship opportunity, and also we encourage the participants to participate in a publication related to the data, because the data is unique and has been used in high impact publications or similar ones, Nature, etc. So there's also scientific impact that you can make by participating. We really encourage also people to think about that as well. So now let's talk about Project Purdue and the hack that you've registered for. So overall, these Project Purdue is part of a COVID-19 Data Science Challenge series that we started off in August, and this is now the second, and we will hopefully other ones coming, because we know it's not going away right away. And here we focus on making predictions in areas that matter. One of those areas, for example, is monitoring and predicting the foot traffic of where people go to identify hotspots, social places of social crowding. A place of interest in this case means a place where people can go and spend time and money. Or money, I should say. Doesn't have to be necessarily money. Restaurants, churches, etc. So here you see a chart from SafeGraph with one of our partners that have a representative sample of mobile phones in the United States, and they provide a simple dashboard on the foot traffic and different categories of brands at this point that aggregate areas of PUI. So certain airports and bars have different PUIs, certain brands, and they categorize that. And you see that we had this huge drop, in March when we had the shutdown, and then a slow take up over time. So while we're running this hack now for the focus on Project Purdue, here, I have to move on very quickly, but this is a slide that I got from a Senate meeting where Mitch Daniels was also presenting, is highlighting that the risk is actually not coming from the classroom, because actually classrooms are pretty safe. It's actually around in the county where the risk lies. So here is also a statement from UNICEF where you can see it's really about the areas around where we do have that risk. So that's something that motivated us to look into an opportunity to give people at Purdue, but also outsiders, a chance to understand where the places are in the Tippecanoe County where people go and where people crowd. We did offer an R and a Python hack, and yesterday we launched a Python hack, because there we have a significant number of people participating. We said we need to have more than 60 people registered. We just made that, and that's why we launched it. In the R, we did not have it, so that's why if you are our programmer right now listening to that, we encourage you to also go and register for the Python hack. Even if you're not as strong in Python compared to R, because of reasons I will tell you further on the way we evaluate it. So another reason why we focus on places of interest is because there's a very recent publication in Nature that identified that a minority of PIs actually account for infections, and those are actually places where we have a high crowding, a large number of people visiting within a week, or even further having a high concentration density. All data, all metrics you actually get in our databases. So it was inspired by some recent findings. They did this study on March, and they actually used data from SafeGraph, data that you also get from us, but they're focused on March. And now we're in another a difficult phase, because we're moving into fall. We do have an increased uptake and growth in infections and death, etc. And we also see that we can't stay outside all the time because it's getting cold. So that's why it's really important to make a contribution. Also interesting because the pattern might be different from the patterns we had. Okay, actually now at this point, I wanted to go to the platform and actually show you the task briefly. So this is the task that you should see once you've gone to the platform. You go to task, and then on the task statement, it should open up. What you have to do first, though, is to fill in a pre-survey. And why do you have to do that? For two reasons. One I already mentioned, you're supporting scientific research. to understand how we can make use data science more productive through the platforms itself, and understand how you learn and explore. The second reason is also we do need to make sure that you accept the rules of the competition and also consent to the data sharing agreement, because this data is there for you to use during that hack. Safegraph gave us those rights, but it's limited, and that's why we need to make sure you actually fill on that survey. So I hope you take the time to do that, and then you can also have access to the task and also the data sets. So as I mentioned, the core focus of this challenge is to make predictions of foot traffic, or raw visitor counts as the actual variable in the data in the data set on the tables, and 1,804 POIs places in a typical county. Among those places are downtown Jim. There are restaurants here in Lafayette, and you will have those in there. You will see those. You also get actually longitude and latitude metric as well, so that you can later on actually also plot them spatially. So you do have a sufficiently large number of places, and we give you historical data from week 11 to week 43. Those historical data that you can use to train a model, then to make a prediction for week 44. So that's relatively recent, and it's a classical prediction test, and it's, I think, very exciting. I hope you find that too. So what are the data providers? I already mentioned it a little bit. So we have data from Safegraph, which is, by the way, also a provider to state agencies, governments around the United States. Just because of the fact that their data set is representative. There are statistical studies that show that their sample is representative. It's not the full population. You don't have everybody's mobile phone, or not everybody has a mobile phone, but it's a representative sample. In addition to that, we'd also have data from Management Performance Hub, and we also ourselves mine some data about executive orders, so that you consider that also in your modeling. So you will have access to 6 tables. One is called weekly patterns. And that weekly pattern has a set of key variables, in particular the variables for historical data about visit count at those places. In addition to that, you also have insights into how much time did people spend at that place, what was the median dwell time, meaning how far away did people go, or where did they, in terms of how much do they travel to get to that place. And also you know about the CBG. So the CBG is a census block group, and we had posted on our forum about that. So that's an area around the POI. There are multiple POIs in CBG. So to give you an idea, we have about 100 CBGs in Tippecanoe County. And so you have that information as well. Beyond that, you know what brand it is, in case it is a brand. The church, for example, doesn't have a brand. That's why you find a null entry there. You will also know the industry, in case it is a brand. And you also do have longitude and latitude, also something you could use and train your model on if you want to use spatial characteristics. Then in addition to that, we provide you a mobility graph. So we give you a table that has a POI, and then there's something we call home visitor CBG. That's basically the census group of where the visitors come from. And then you do have the week number, and then you also do have the number of visitors. Gives you in a way an opportunity to build, to consider mobility data in your mobility or movements in your model as well, because you know where people come from. If you have been exposed to network models, that's an interesting data set to also use. You don't have to use it though. It's up to you how much of those data, how many of those tables you want to use. The third table that we have is the CBG social distancing data. That data has information about the social distancing behavior in CBGs. And here we cover the CBGs that are in Tippecanoe County, but also other CBGs in the state of Indiana. So you could consider that if you want to, because, for example, you get a percentage of people that actually stayed at home, or you see the average movement in that CBG. So also an indicator of potential visiting behavior. And then you have COVID cases as well. Here, those cases are at the county level. And so you have county level data. So you see different levels, not all at the same level. So requires you to consider that. Then we also have another data about executive orders. So we looked into the executive orders that were posted on the NN website. And so you do have information about their week. You do have the actual text of the executive order. We parse that. So if you want to, work on this and do some natural language processing, you can. We parsed out whether they are to do with COVID-19 or not. And so that's something that you can already use as in your model without having to parse the actual text. And for sure, you also have the actual link to the actual executive order. And then the final one is not necessarily a table, it's just a list of the POIs that you should make predictions for. It's the 1,804 POIs that are within the Tippecanoe County. We have 100 CBGs, and then outside of those CBGs, we have several 100,000. I need to quickly check whether there's something going on here. Notification. Okay, what do you have to do? You have to make submissions, and you have to submit a CSV file that is formatted in a certain way, and you have to also submit your notebook. It is required that you use the hub, that you use also our notebooks, because for us to actually score you on exploration, and we'll talk a little bit more about that, we actually need to understand what you're doing with our hub. At the same time, it gives us a great opportunity to also improve our hub and make it better. We're constantly learning about this. As you know, the lab is actually very new, and the kernels, in particular the R kernels, etc., are new. So you would have to use the hub and the notebook all the time to be considered and fulfill the rules of that competition, so that we also can perform that research and that we can also score you. We have preloaded a range of libraries for you. This is actually all accessible also in the task statement. We have linked all this, and I think I should go back to that to also show you the link to the table description, to the schema, and also the list of the libraries that we have pre-installed. Please use those and make sure that if there's anything at this point, that you're worried about, that you contact us, get in touch, leave a message to our forum responses as we're moving along, because we want to help you, we want to assist you, we want to make sure that you can actually move forward. So don't hesitate to reach out. I'm not monitoring right now the chat, but if you have questions right now, put them there as well. So how do we evaluate you? So we evaluate you in two ways. So very classical, we look into prediction accuracy, mean squared prediction error, or MSE. We call it prediction error because we actually ask you to make prediction based on time series data. And then we have the mean absolute prediction accuracy. We use both because one is more sensitive to outliers, and then we use the average of that. Then there's another dimension, which is what we call exploration, where you are asked to explore, to improve your statistical model, to try different models, and also based on the activity in the workspace. So how much code changes do you make? How many new functions do you try? For sure, it's not just always the more the better. It also should be meaningful. That's very clear, because in the end, it leads to a better prediction. But we really encourage you to try, and not just to stick to one submission and that's it, but try to improve it over time. And you have actually the ability to get it evaluated as soon as you submit. And that's kind of the beauty that you submit, you get a new evaluation right away. So when you say exploration, and what do I mean? You can, just based on our own quick exploration of the data, can go and get pretty far if you turn that into a lag regression challenge, and basically lag and just run a regression, logistic regression, or rich regression. But you should also maybe try another model, time series model. This is time series data, so it's lends itself to time series model, and there are various ones, from moving averages and others. We've also people trying a neural network on it. It also worked quite fine. And now with the data we have, you can also try network models. Actually, the paper that I cited, the Nature paper, considers also a network. I mean, it's one of the models, the epidemiological models that have become quite popular these days when it looks about infection. But in the end, general network models might be also something to encourage. I let that up to you. I don't want to nudge you into anything. Just trying to be creative and try it. You have multiple opportunities to try it. You might want to, say, I don't feel ready to try another model in the first round, but really try to explore. That's what we encourage because we actually reward you for that. Okay? So don't think it's too risky. We actually reward you to try out different models. And I guess that's also kind of important. In this setting, you will actually work as an individual. At the same time, you will also work as part of a group. And that's how we award you. So we award the best 5 submissions. Those are individuals that compete against the whole cohort. And also then we award the groups. So we have the best groups getting 1,200 down to the 5th best group, 400. So almost everybody actually gets something. So how do we then score you? And that's discussed in more detail in the task description. Your individual outcomes, so that's your prediction accuracy. We consider the last submission, but also any second best submission you made before. So that's why it's actually worthwhile trying to improve. And then also your exploration effort. So cumulatively over time, how active are you in a workspace? How many models are you trying? How many functions are you trying? How much changes do you make? And then same for the group. Here, the group scoring is the average prediction accuracy. We're using that. And then also the total exploration effort of the group. I think that's pretty exciting. What's important to keep in mind also the rule, it is an individual work in a group setting. So you work individually, but you're part of a group. And what does that mean? So you actually make submissions individually. And you're not working together on one submission. That's the kind of important to keep in mind. But you're sampled into groups. And then we calculate the group performance from that. And you have the opportunity to stand out in the rest based on your individual contribution. But at the same time, you can also stand out as a group because you're awarded as a group. Okay? So for group work, that's all made by the platform. And at the same time, we also, because of the restriction from IRB, we need to have you use pseudonyms on the platform. So all the interaction is on the platform. You're not allowed to communicate outside. We'll share the models with you among you in the team or in the group, I should say. So this is all taken care of. You don't have to worry about it. As soon as you submit your solution, you will see your own submission, but you will also see the submission of your group. Gives you an idea of what others have tried and an incentive to maybe also explore other things they've tried, or even something they haven't tried, that you even go beyond what they are doing. Minimum number of submission, you have to make at least 2 submissions. There are 2 mandatory submissions. The first one is coming up this week, and then there's the final submission. There are 2 mandatory submissions. You have to make them via submission groups. And you have to submit the mandatory files. CSV and notebook files are always required. In addition to that, you have to provide a model summary. And we'll be actually posting a forum post and a tutorial on that, how to write a good summary of your model and select some tags from a tag list. That's also very important. Empty submissions are not eligible. Yeah, you have to use the workspace to qualify for an award, and we actually ask you to use a template that we've prepared for you, and that is accessible in the task itself. You can just click on the link in the template, and you can also go to tutorial 4 where we give you more advice on how to prepare a submission so that you meet the requirements so that you can be scored in real time. So you agree at this point also to support scientific research, as this challenge is funded by NSF and also Project Purdue. Languages in this challenge, Python and the libraries. It's a really exhaustive little libraries. I don't think you're going to run out of that. For sure, you can write your own functions and models list. You have all the creativity there. But when it comes to other external libraries, this is the list I would like you to use. We've pre-installed them for you. You don't have to install anything else. So it's already there. There's nothing to worry about with installing, etc. You just have to import them so that you can get going. I mentioned data usage policies because we work to safeguard, because it's really exclusive and unique data. Be so kind, fill in the survey, and then agree also to our data sharing agreement. You have access, unlimited access during the competition, but as soon as the competition is over, you would have to stop using it. Your right expires, okay, unless you request further access from us. And we also have an honest code. You're required to grade your work individually. In case you need additional information besides the work accessible by the platform, you have to provide traceable information sources. Yes, we know coding is a lot about Googling. And if you are using something and if you find something out there, you have to just give credit to that. So we rely here on an honest code that's very common in science and academia, that we reference other people's work that influence others. If we find that you to just complete clones, which is kind of something we don't think you would do, then you would be included. So complete cloning is not eligible, but you can definitely use and get inspired by it. Ownership of the code. You provide us with the right to publish your models out there. There's two different things. One is the code, one is the data. So the data is not owned by you, but the code and the models, you have the right to that. We use a Creative Commons license at that point in terms of providing, having the right to also publish your models on that. So that prevents others from also using it. So now I think very important here, the two-stage submission process. So you start now with the release of the tag yesterday, then you have 3 days of work, and now get going, work on the first submission. That's due September 10th at midnight. And then we assemble you into a group. That will happen just very rapidly overnight. And the next day you will have access to your dashboard. You see your scores and with MSP, MAP, and you also see you also then see who else is in your group. We use pseudonyms, so when you see their submissions, and this will be done randomly, and then you move on for another 7 days. You can submit as often as you want. We always grade submissions on the platform, so there will be a navigation bar pop up. Today, talk about submission, and then in there you find all the submissions. And then there's only the final submission that you have to make, and that's on December 17th. And then the hack is over, and then we will award the winners. And I can't wait to see who it is going to be, which group it is going to be. Let me just clarify at the end. The purpose of a group here is to achieve a common goal of a higher group performance in terms of prediction, exploration. And the key feature of a group is also that you can see each other's work and align each other's action. You still work individually, so it's not that you work on one single submission. I have to emphasize that. That's how it is set up. But for sure, there's a lot of inspiration you can gain from each other. But each individual will still submit. Why we're asking for that? Because in the end, we also want to award the best individual winner. So that's also to be kept in mind. I'm actually now at the end of that presentation. Before I show our partners, let me just quickly switch back here. And let me also go one more time to the task, because I've talked very fast, I know. So I talked about those 5 tables, and you find them here, okay? I didn't talk so much of how do you get access to this. This is where, this is important though. So we have created a tutorial for you, that's tutorial 2, and let's hope the link works just fine. Okay, so there is a tutorial 2, and in that tutorial 2, you find instruction, but most importantly, you also find a notebook that we have prepared for you. Okay. That's here, and in that notebook, you can then work and go ahead and just follow those instructions, how to work with a key. I'm not going to do this right now, but you can just basically download that, You can then import it in your workspace and run it, and then work from there. I should also show you where your key is. It's very important because you need a key. As you can see, it's a bit maybe too small, but you see here, I need a key, right? So that's kind of the key path, and that's a key, a JSON key, and that key is in your profile. So here is the key. So if you haven't done that, you should definitely get started. You download that key, and then you follow those instructions from the tutorial to actually query the database. And in there now, we do have 2 data sets. One is called training, and that's where you were working on right now. But now you also find a competition table. And in that competition table here, that's the one, you'll find those tables that I just talked about. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They're in there, and you can query them just with a notebook. You don't have to do much besides just following the tutorial 2 instructions. Then also talked about the libraries. So here, again, talked about the libraries. Here's a list of the libraries that we've pre-installed for Python, and you do also have a link to the official documentation there. That's also very helpful. Again, here about the convention. When you submit, you have to prepare a CSV file, and this, you need to have the POID, and the second column is raw versus counts. Okay. And the second file is in a Jupyter notebook. And then also complementary information is needed, model summary, tags, and reference that also needed to be prepared. I also mentioned that we do have a tutorial for it that has been developed, and I have to give credit here to Matt here in the call who did this, to make sure you can actually prepare a submission that meets the requirements and it doesn't fail, certain minimum requirements because you're not preparing the files in a way you should. And then there's also some tips and tricks in there for you. So let me just go there. It's loading. Here's the tutorial 4, and tells you about how you remove cells, output from cells, because you should not submit a notebook that has all the output there. Also removing error messages. There's also a neat magic command in Python notebooks. Here's some general recommendation and how to format your notebook. That submission CSV files here, that you have the correct headers, no missing values, etc. We had also people in the past adding indices, so make sure that you don't have indices in here, or that you have the incorrect header. So it's really also case sensitive. Don't call it foot traffic because you renamed that in your own code because you found wanted to work with foot traffic instead of raw visits count. So don't do that. Make sure it's there, and then don't wrap it into quotation. And here you see one that has multiple mistakes at once. Just make sure that your CSV file is really meeting the formatting guidelines that we provide you in the task, but in the submission page, we'll pay specific attention again to lay that out again. Also make sure that you don't provide your actual real name in the submission in the notebook. Remove that. So when you add headers, etc., you can be more than happy to use your pseudonym, but don't provide your real name. You will also then not meet the requirements. Here's that notebook that I talked about. And that's a very important notebook. So that's the one we kindly ask you to work with for the following reason. To actually understand how much you explore, we need to get a better understanding about your work activity in the workspace. And it also helps us to improve the hub. So here is just a cell we kind of I like you to run when you work frequently so that we can capture some information. And then once you have, this should be at the beginning, then you should have imports here, and then the classes and functions that you maybe create in case you do so, then your analysis and the results. Very common to put the classes in the beginning, analysis and results. Comment your code if possible, it's just good practice. And notebooks are really neat because they allow you to also embed markdown cells where you can actually then edit them so that non-coder can also understand what you've been doing without actually going into your code files so that they can also that the results can be communicated in a nice way. So yeah, that's kind of it. So here's a template. It's also linked in the task. I think I should mention that. It's linked here in the task, so something we kindly ask you to use. There's nothing to worry about using this. So it's nothing. There's just a general outline, and there's a simple cell in the beginning. We can't ask you to run it. Here are also the formulas for MSP and MAP, how we calculate that. And I also then clarified here the incentives, a group 1,200 and individual 500. They're not exclusive. You can be the best, and you can also be the best group, part of the best group, okay? They work at the same time. So it really makes sense to focus on both, to try to improve your own performance while also improving the group performance. So I would go for both. Everybody gets a certificate, fellowship as well, and is an opportunity. So we actually then talk to people that participate that are among the best, whether they want to be fellows. Sometimes they ask us, and we then invite all of you to also publish your results beyond the publication of your models on our website. We will also feature the results. We will actually present them to the Project Purdue leadership team. And it's also mentioned in here. That's set in January, but we have to complete, based on their requirements, the hack by December 17th. Otherwise, I would give you actually more time. Unfortunately, that's not the case. But take this as a very high energy activity right now and get going. Okay, now let me see. What's the next question? Yes, you're absolutely right with the COVID cases. Yes, we saw that earlier before the event. It's actually about to be updated. Thank you, Lal, for your question. You're very diligent, yes. Okay, are there funny questions? Let me just then. If not, get in touch with us. I should maybe show that as well. If you go to the platform, there's a get in touch feature. You can get in touch with us. You can also, by the way, we have a hashtag, IronHacks, and if you're excited about that, you can also tweet if you're on Twitter. And otherwise, make sure you get started now. The task is released. Any problems you have with accessing the BigQuery, you should just let us know as soon as possible. You will see a submission bar popping up here later today. We plan to open submission tomorrow, but however, you have actually time until Thursday to make your first submission. So you have a bit, you should explore a bit. And I guess that's it. And I forgot to mention, your first model doesn't have to be the best, okay? You have plenty of time to improve. Afterwards, we assemble you into a group. So you should try to build a good model, but you should have the aspiration to make it even better afterwards. That's maybe my final conclusion, a statement here. And there are a range of partners here. Project Purdue, we also have the state involved. We have the Chief Data Officer of Indiana involved. We have partner Project, the Policy Research Institute, National Science Foundation, SafeGraph. And so they all want you now to do it. So let's do it. Thank you for your time.